Today is 18 June. We're approaching top of the hour here, 8 a.m. It's now 7:52, awaiting the arrival of our special guest speaker, Ron Cooper. Uh, he and Marty Cooper created the cooperculture.com. Go take a look. It's fascinating, actually. Ron Cooper's background is really super interesting to me. During the Vietnam War, I was an operating room technician, a medic within an elite thoracic surgical unit. We were headquartered in Boston, and the work that was done in the Army medical unit was done at the very top level and oftentimes classified. Work that was done was photographed, videoed, even back then, and the videos were sent overseas by jet courier regularly to the Army medical surgeons in the field in Vietnam, how to do certain operations and things. My role as an OR tech, as a medic, was to be a help. And I was trained by these Harvard surgeons, grateful for that experience. Ron Cooper, at that time, was a jet pilot, U.S. Air Force, Vietnam, 300 missions. They all came back unharmed, unscratched. He is a leader, hardened squadron trainer of people, just super talents. And he's now an executive coach, the CEO of his firm, the cooperculture.com, partners with his wife of 58 years, Marty Cooper. Very special guy. So special is that the movie character of Tom Cruise in Top Gun was modeled on Ron and guys like him. Actually, on some gals too, but mostly guys back then. Ron Cooper will be with us in just a minute. Stay tuned. This is Ed again. We're back this time with our featured speaker, Ron Cooper. Ron and Marty Cooper, married 58 years, and they have set up the cooperculture.com. Go take a look at that. It's super interesting, very informative. Also joining us is Dr. Ken Lloyd, PhD in organizational psychology and other things. Ken, please do a better job introducing yourself than I just did.
Oh, glad to. Graduate of UC Berkeley back in the 60s. I went to UCLA for a master's and PhD in organizational development. And from there, went into consulting for several years on my own practice, ultimately joined a client, a medical apparel manufacturer. And in the same time, I had written a syndicated workplace advice column and 11 books, and taught part-time in the MBA program at UCLA. That's a thumbnail sketch.
That's the reason why you're here. I'm tongue-tied, and you just said all that so smoothly, and it goes deep. Ron Cooper, welcome. And you suggested this topic, employee resistance to feedback, and the issues that come with all that. So I asked Gemini about 15 minutes ago to summarize. This is a quote: "The paradox, colon, we talk a lot about feedback culture, but why do so many organizations still treat employee input as a disruption rather than a strategic asset?" Ron Cooper.
And
That's
yes,
a loaded
so,
gun.
well, no, that's but I'm going to introduce this topic by saying that as a very general statement, let's talk about this and try to project yourself with your supervisor saying, let's talk about this. I'm going to bet you have one of a couple of thoughts come to mind. Oh my, what now? Or could be, okay, sure, let's do talk about it because I can always benefit from, we can learn together. It's always a very productive, interactive conversation. Where are we on that scale? In the context of resistance to appraisals, we have discussed this before, but if it is an annual event, a lot of things come to mind. To the person who's going to be the subject of the appraisal, oh my, here we are, here, go through a list, and the person who's conducting the appraisal might think, I don't even know what to talk about. I got to have okay, someone print a list of topics in front of me, and what is it we talk about, and have I interacted with this person enough throughout the year to know how to even effectively talk about any of these traits of how well do they communicate, how well do they work, et cetera, and so on. One reaction to we need to do your annual appraisal might be, oh gosh, man, all right, let's just get through this and hurry up and check the box off. And but the other could be, no, it's not an annual appraisal. Let's have a frequent conversation. Ken and I have talked about this a bunch of times. Clearly, the most effective way to communicate and increase a person's performance in work traits and so forth is to have frequent conversation. Now, how do we as supervisors, how do we as leaders address that person? Do we address that person in a condescending way? I'm here, you're down there. If it's going to be that way, then it's okay, I'll endure whatever time is required for you to demean me. Or, okay, now let me give you one example of, and I think I've mentioned this before, but at the expense maybe I've repeated myself. Several years ago, I was in the military and I'm having a conversation with a three-star general. I'm a captain. And we're maybe 5 minutes into the conversation, and he mentioned to me, and understand, here's a three-star general, and here I am, a lowball captain. Let me tell you how you may have been able to do this a little better, Ron. And I thought, oh boy, I'm in the heat of the kitchen now. And how is this going to be? Is he and put this in the context that he was, I believe, I know for certain he was a POW in Hanoi in Vietnam. 5 years, I believe. I may be wrong on the amount of time, but he had that as his background, and he knew what it was to be treated in the Hanoi Hilton camp and so forth. Now, I don't know at this moment when who knows, I may have been at the table, at the conference table in his office for 8, 10 minutes or so. I'm curious how this conversation is going to be. As it turns out, he said, Ron, you could have worked this a little bit better. And what he did was dissect the decision aspects or how I processed information very briefly with me in this part of the conversation. I don't know, I'm going to guess 12, 15 minutes or so. He dissected every part and he related it to me and how I responded to that. Well, Ron, here's how you could have done things better. And after that conversation of maybe 15 minutes, he put me back together figuratively. I left that conversation a better person than when I went into the conversation. He was very helpful and he integrated my personality, he knew my work ethic. He put it all together in without using the words complimentary. He was very complimentary of my work ethic and everything that went into that. And it became a very worthwhile learning experience. And I thought, yes, I certainly could have done that better. He gave me a perspective I did not have. But as we take the time, Ken and Ed, to work with people in just that way, but I would say, and we've talked about this numerous times, in real time, not the annual checkoff that your annual review is scheduled in 9.5 months. But no, as we discuss this in real time, and it doesn't take maybe more than 3, 4, 7 minutes, whatever it is, that we can discuss this with a person, and it can be a very meaningful way. But it's the way in which we talk with people, our relationships. Is it a very meaningful conversation, or are we speaking in a demeaning tone? And many times we hear it's not what you said, it's more so how you said what you said. And am I going to learn from this conversation? Or is it going to be, well, I will just remain silent and be captive for however long it takes you to go through whatever prescribed words you have for me. But those are just some of the things that some people go through, Ken. Again, I mean, Ed, kind of a long answer to just an opening statement, but it is the way some people are. When you say, let's talk about this, it's the people form an opinion right away. Will this be positive or negative? And they have a mindset that goes right with that.
How often was that feedback, that kind of feedback, that kind of session? How often, if you can recall, was it wasn't once a year? It was more frequent, I assume. I probably guessed
It was
after every mission.
well. Let's just say in the flight, it's every mission. We have a debrief. We again, I'm going to relate it to the flight. We have a briefing, and we are all in a room, and there is a flight lead. And if I'm the flight lead, I am in charge of this flight. And again, Ed and Ken, let's just say that Ed, you're a 4-star. Ken, you're a 3-star. You're both in of my wingman, and I'm the lowball captain. I'm in charge of this mission, and they know that I'm in charge. I am the flight lead. I am responsible for planning this mission. I am responsible for the safety and completion of this mission. Yep, I acknowledge you're a 4-star and a 3-star, but I am the flight lead. I am telling you how this flight will be conducted. Now, I'm talking very dogmatically right now, but let me just say that is the culture that they know, we each know.
It's expected.
It's expected. That's exactly what it is. And we're not here to question the flight lead because, again, the military has been trained. I have been certified, qualified to lead this flight, after having gone through the training that I have gone through. Now, your question, how often did the feedback occur? Well, let me go back. That we fly the mission and we debrief. How well did we accomplish the mission? What can we learn from that? That's every flight mission, every flight mission. The flight lead in the briefing is pretty much a one-way conversation. This is the way the flight will be conducted. In the debrief, that can be a conference type of discussion. Now, I, as a flight lead, am responsible for assessing the overall conduct of the flight. Now, individually, we can talk and, okay, how could we have done that any better? It can be a conversational tone at that point, but we're there to learn from and through each other. That is, and we're learning from every mission. Now, how does that relate to my conversation with the 3-star? Obviously, he's not going to have a meeting with me, 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 times a day. But I met with him throughout. It was a 1-year assignment. I was there with him. He was the Air Force's Inspector General. And I would meet with him, who knows, maybe 2 or 3 times a month. And it would be, for every time we met, it would be a very useful conversation. I knew There's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to learn from this three-star general. He is well past ranking me. So he was never condescending, never. And he was always very helpful, talked in a conversational tone. He respected me. Of course, I respected him as a three-star, but that's the way the military was then. There's a discipline, and you're never late for an assigned meeting. Never, 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 never. And you're attentive during the meetings, and yes, conversational tone and so forth. But I respected the fact that he wore three stars. That proves life wisdom, and I want to learn from him. And so it had to do a lot, Ken and Ed, with mindset. But and it's yes, the military respect the rank, but quite honestly, there are some people you say, well, if I'm in the room for the three-star who just does little more than bark and yap, I'll just have to endure whatever time I'm with him. He was not that way in any form.
So you expect, you from your words, you expected an attack, but this general was been there, done that, and it was conversational, it was brotherly, it was
Well, let's just say
cooperative.
Ed, I'm going to use a different word. Not expected, but I knew. Okay, I wonder which way we're going to come down on this. Let me explain to you. Well, am I going to get a real dress down from this conversation, or is it a great learning experience? It was a great learning experience, and so I thought, okay, well, he's a three-star, and I don't think he will, but yet I don't know. Have I upset him to where this may be a real dress down? Nope, not at all. Not even close. And I believe, and if he were here right now, he would probably say, "No, Ron, I know who you are. I know your work ethic. I just want I want to give you the benefit of my life wisdom." And boy, I tell you what, I respond extremely well to that when a person comes across that way. And Ed and Ken, when we as leaders relationally relate to others just that way, people respond. They will be all in, all engaged. And I would hope that we surround ourselves with the right people who have a hunger, a genuine hunger to learn. And I hope they can respect my life wisdom without me having to prove that to them. But I would just hope that through conversation, through daily interaction, I can prove to them I do have life wisdom. And so as we respect each other, we will learn from each other. Again, Ed, long answer to your question.
Ken, I know you have a lot to say on this, but it's all about trust, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's trust. Can we trust each other that, yep, we can learn from each other? Or are you going to be condescending to me? Are you going to talk down to me? Are you going to try to use your rank, your position, your whatever to say, man, I am here. I want you to know you are there, a hierarchical. If it's that way, I'll just merely endure the conversation. And from that, people might say, and here's where divisiveness occurs in the organization. I was just dressed down. Now, who would I say to that? Who would I even start a conversation with? I will start that conversation with those I feel very certain, or I know with certainty will agree with me. I'm going to those that I know will agree with me. Now, not everyone will, but I will only address that with those who do. And now, so we have a 2, 3-way, whatever conversation. Yep, we're in agreement, and I know not everybody will. So now the organization starts to divide. And I guarantee you that happens within company cultures, family cultures, because you're there to find people who agree with you rather than assess how can we get along better with each other. But Ed and Ken, that's just the way some people respond to different situations, adversity, let's say. And so is your mindset one? How can we find ways to work better together, even though we differ on whatever points, assuming now we're not talking about core values?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are two key themes that run through what Ron is saying that are so important. And you hear the words a lot as he's talking: learning and conversation. So we're talking about these sessions, but number one, from the learning standpoint, it's not just saying, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you did this, and go take care of it. As opposed to Ron saying, you're sitting there and you are actually learning. At the same time, and the general, I'm sure, would admit that he is learning from you. And because he's listening and paying attention, learning from you, learning about you, but he doesn't leave a session like this without learning something as well. It is a true learning experience on both sides. And that's really what it was. This wasn't to provide discipline. It wasn't to say you did all these things wrong. And secondly, as Ron is saying, it's a conversation. By definition, it's two-way. So when we're talking about feedback, it's not just, here's a list of all the things you did, whether they're right or wrong, and that's it. But it's a conversation, it's a dialogue. And fortunately, that is how people learn. If you just lecture somebody, that's the least effective way to educate or train. People need some feedback, some guidance. They need to see that you're engaged in their learning and growth and development. And that's really what Ron has experienced and when he works with other companies through the Cooper culture to help build and train the effectiveness of leaders. These two key factors, that learning and communication, are so critical. We know annual performance appraisals. If you were to give annual performance appraisals, an appraisal you'd list it as needs improvement, okay? And that's just what Ron is talking about. Regular dialogue, regular conversations, and again, that forward focus, so that we're really helping people not just say, here's the feedback, go deal with it, but let's talk about it. And as Ron said, he walked out of those meetings having learned something. That's the ideal outcome.
And it Ken always stimulates my thinking. Learning. Everyone has a learning style. Now, in the conversation with the general, that he adapted to me right away. That I am primarily a kinesthetic learner, hands-on. I want to be with people who are right there. Now, if my learning style is, if my learning style is reading, then he would tell me, you might consider reading this book or listen to, but as we can learn, discern learning styles, we adapt to that. How can I best learn? And the person with whom I am speaking, as I'm leading people, I hope to inspire them to be hungry, genuinely hungry to learn. And so, learning style. How do you best learn? Well, there may be someone in the organization that's, tell you what, you get with Ken and he'll work with you and he'll show you exactly how to do this. And you come away from a conversation, man, I really learned from that. But it's, again, as we learn people, as we choose to, and we adapt to them, and adapting in this context is learning styles. And when we do that, we're going to have people who are all engaged. I want to learn. And so, because, man, when I'm all engaged and I learn from, I know together we're going to advance far better than what we will individually.
And in the ranks of employees in a company environment, it's different than the military for sure, but employees are afraid to speak up. They don't want to be labeled as being difficult.
Depends on the organization, depends on the culture. If we have what we would call a psychologically safe organization, they're not afraid at all. In fact, their inputs are valued and they know it, and their ideas are carefully considered. They're discussed. They might be shaped or reshaped. They might be implemented as is. But yeah, there's certainly in some organizations, you're afraid to say anything because you're going to look like, oh, you're just rocking the boat, you're a troublemaker, and you're just out there for yourself. Many organizations have the exact opposite culture. We value you. You can trust us. We trust you. We want to hear from you. And that's really a way to build loyalty and commitment and engagement. as opposed to the one way coming down with the information, do it basically or else. That's not where organizations are really positively headed these days. That certainly is not what new members of the workforce are looking for at all. And here, Ron is talking about the military, a classical hierarchical organization. And still in that environment, there's interest in what the individuals, we'll call them employees, what the soldiers of various ranks are saying. What are your ideas? What are your thoughts? That's in the military. And frankly, in many organizations that are also hierarchically structured, we're looking for that same kind of treatment. And frankly, people, that's not the image that people have of the military. It's yes, sir, do as you're told and go. And that's not real leadership. That's not what Ron has experienced with a 3-star general who could act that way very easily, but instead was engaging and open and communicative and interested in Ron's learning and growth at the same time. So yeah, if we have an organization where people are afraid to speak up and express their views, we have to get back, we have to check out the culture. I think we'd bring in Ron and Marty and say, help us out here, we're going the wrong way. How do we rebuild, redesign this culture? And that would come from the top down. It's not going to just come from some middle level managers. It really has to be at the leadership levels of the highest order.
So a lot of employees, according to Gemini, just don't trust the more senior people, and they're afraid to speak up, and they're afraid, fearful. It sounds like they don't even belong, from my view of this. Ron, is it upon you as the CEO to, of course, try to correct that, but you do that through your middle managers, right?
Well, you do. And okay, trust. Yes, there are conversations that occur within the C-suite, CFO, COO, and so forth, that at the earliest stages of conversation, we don't want rumors to get out and so forth. We need to be able to openly discuss different things, put ideas on the table, and maybe 90% of the ideas discussed will not merit moving forward. It's only that proverbial 10%. So we don't want to get rumors started that, well, they put this idea on the table. I can't believe they would even discuss doing that kind of thing. And so what I'm leading up to is that, yes, there are times when it is appropriate to have some closed door conversations, but understand the culture needs to be such that these closed-door conversations are not ones where we talk about Ken and Ed and denigrate them and so forth and so on. If Ken and or Ed, in this hypothetical example, we're just uncertain whether they want to or whether their values align with us and whether they want to continue with the company. I'll have that one conversation with them one-on-one. And so if people think that, man, I tell you what, I may be a topic of conversation in this 5-person closed group. No, I'm not going to trust you at all. I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going to give you the fodder, so to speak, of something that can end up being a discussion topic behind closed doors. I don't trust you. Therefore, there's not a chance I'm going to say a thing to you that could end up being used against me. But that is an example out of a very toxic culture if that were to happen that way.
You can have private conversations in a company, an organization that has a very high level of trust as well. In fact, if you can't have a private conversation with someone, that's going to contribute to a lack of trust. Gee, I talked with Ron in confidence, and now suddenly everybody knows about it. We have private conversations in organizations where trust levels are at the very highest. So it's not necessarily that we're open about everything. I mean, there are business topics at the highest level. Ron mentioned the C-suite that are not really for publication. They shouldn't be out there because of all kinds of considerations, perhaps in the marketplace or future decisions that are being made about the organization that need to stay within 4 walls, at least initially. So just because there are private discussions does not mean we have an organization with a lack of trust. It might mean the exact opposite.
As we come to a close the next 10, 12 minutes or so here, Ron, let's talk about how a leader should behave to engineer, orchestrate belief and collegiality in the organization. I asked Gemini how to do that. And I'm going to quote, this is Gemini. Ron, if a leader listening today wants to move the needle by next week, what is the one tangible step the leader can take to demonstrate they are truly listening rather than resisting?
Ed, I would say that one, I want to speak in a conversational tone. And I would explain to those in the company that I want to have something different occur. I want to explain why. Why is it that whatever I'm thinking, we need to change something in our processes, something needs to be done? Why? And I would hope that I have the people with the right values, again, hungry to learn, that I can have a conversation with them. And I am doing this for this reason. Now, there are personalities who are, I think, very specific that if my plan has an opportunity to fail, I say opportunity, if there's a weak aspect in any aspect of my plan, tell me, where might it fail? What are the consequences that may be, that may have a detrimental consequence? Tell me what that is. There are people I want on my team who can specialize in that, and I'm going to rely on them to take a deep look, so to speak, into whatever the plan is that I think needs to be instituted, and tell me what the adverse impacts may be. And so those are the kind of people that I want to look at that, and I may decide, okay, yes, that is a potential, and so I want to be aware of whatever consequences, adverse consequences there are that would be a result of the change I want to make. But then I would want to know the impact of everyone in my organization, the change I want to institute. What is the impact on them? And I would want to address that. If there's a negative impact to any of my people, I would want to address that with them before I go formal with a decision, to let them know there is this potential negative consequence to my decision, but I want you to know I'm here to take care of you. And so if I can relay that to my people, I'm going to, there's no guarantee, but there's a high probability I'm going to have people stay with me and say, yep, I'm going to support you, because there are many people well, there's some number of people who will say, I love my job, I just hate the people where I work. And so I would hope that people would be able to say, I love my job, what I do, the people are aligned, they genuinely care about me. And the word care is not hollow. They genuinely do. Ed, Ken, that's the projection, that's the culture I want to have on people. And now, me, when I make the decision, when I make the announcement, I am accountable for every aspect of that. And I'll tell you the facts and factors on which I base that decision. Should those factors change, I'll tell you, okay, I'm going to change my decision. And I will tell you that I'm hopefully, I made a decision that is best for the longevity of this company, your longevity, your welfare, your total engagement with this company. That is my hope. And so I want to try to project that as the leader of my company.
Ken?
If managers or leaders are looking for a shorthand to say, all right, how do I bring about the kinds of outcomes that we're talking about? Two additional words that we've touched on that come to mind just are respect and trust. Am I truly treating my people with respect and trust? If so, how am I doing that? How am I showing it? How am I displaying it? And if not, why not? Why am I showing behaviors that indicate something other than trust? And frankly, if we're really focusing on our employees as individuals, just as Ron was saying, Ron was talking about understanding employees as individuals when he's talking about their learning styles, instead of one approach fits all. The general who was dealing with Ron focused on Ron's learning style, which was more kinesthetic, hands-on, doing it that way. Others are visual learners, as Ron mentioned. They're auditory learners that learn more by hearing. The key underlying factor is understanding our employees as individuals, working with them, communicating two-way with them, treating them with those two key words, respect and trust, not just as words, but truly in behaviors, actions, programs, opportunities that underlie what we do in this organization. And then you're not going to have that kind of outcome that you were talking about, that Gemini is telling you, that employees just don't trust where they work. And some employees are right not to trust where the individuals around them. But that's not what we're trying to build. We're trying to build an organization and a culture where respect and trust are key, real themes. You can see it out there. You can see it in our programs, our policies, our practices, and all that we do. That's out there. And if managers and leaders are not showing it, employees can do something about it. They can talk to others. We want to hear them. We want to build with their thoughts in mind.
Ron, this has been a really instructive, deep thinking and easy expression session. And I thank you for putting up with me and the way I get Gemini involved here. I don't do it to be antagonistic, but just have something to say and ask you about that.
No, I had never interpreted that you're looking at Gemini to be antagonistic. I never think of that. But I do think that, we need to have a heart for people. People deserve to be led well. I've said that a bunch of times. And so, as we are leading people, we need to know people. We need to be able to identify. We want to have a hunger. Again, I'm going to use the word hunger to learn our people. We want to have a hunger to have the right people in our organization. Do you share our values? And so we want to bring the right people in. And I'll close by saying sometimes CEOs need to make adjustments when they have mergers and acquisitions. Yes, economically and for various reasons, logistics type reasons, mergers and acquisitions can work very well. However, you have people involved in that, quite obviously. And when you are merging two organizations that may be very different in culture, you're merging under one culture. And not everybody's going to want to be under that one culture. And so you may have to make some very difficult decisions should people not be willing to adjust to what may be the new culture. But those are just some considerations that need to be made to have a fully, genuinely functional, all engaged type of culture.
Thank you so much for being again on this program. This series that we've been doing the past year and a half or so, and others from Paul Falcone and Stephen Howard, Joseph McGuire in Dublin, Heather in London, and others have attracted the C-suite, senior level, according to LinkedIn demographics. They are watching everything that I'm doing. And it's been a positive, thankfully. It's all good. But over the past 12 months, or roughly, when we've been doing this series, and I've been focusing in on the senior level approach rather than global HR, which is nothing wrong with. I've built my life on that. But the C-suite speaks, the C-suite issues, the C-suite views. That's our eyeballs watching this show and others other shows that I've produced like this. Over the past year, they sent me a memo. Over 300,000 open views. Doesn't mean, and I don't know how long they were open, but on similar types programs. And this is senior level, they use their words, senior level in large organizations having more than 10,000 employees. That's the largest single group of audience. I've got lots of audiences, but mostly lower level, and particularly involved with relocation of talent and program assessing and assignment, and then the issues connected with assignment failure. That has been my mainstay. I've been working on this and other programs. Just yesterday, I was fortunate to have the National SHRM organization set me up with Insperity, which is one of their biggest sponsors. The national convention is going on right now in Orlando. They had given me a press pass to come and do all that in person. I declined, saying I can't travel now. And so I'm doing my SHRM interviews all online. Yesterday was Insperity, and there's a couple of others to come. It was a terrific interview, and I'll send that to you today. It's just now becoming public in the next couple hours, and I'd like your feedback on it. I think you'll like it, but this program will fit right into that. So I'm packaging up this kind of program to expand to go to 500,000. 300,000 is okay across the year, but how about 500,000? How about more? The total reach of the memberships in LinkedIn that I have is just over 2 million, but that is, numbers are big and liars are big, but we have no control over how long they are on or what they like best unless I get direct feedback. So I want to do more of this level, and that takes sponsorship, that takes money, so that I could pay bills because it's taken a lot of time and effort, but I think it's worthwhile to pursue it. So I'm enlarging our membership campaign. Rather than sell ad space, I'm selling memberships. And memberships means speaking roles throughout the year. The amount of money invested relates to the length of time on camera that I can devote. And all that becomes training in addition to business introductions and everything else. So this is food, this program and the one yesterday with Insperity and some others coming up, particularly with Joseph McGuire in Dublin about facial facts and negotiating tips. I can't help but think that President Trump knew exactly about Joseph McGuire and facial tips. I don't know if you watched that press conference late yesterday with the G7, where he got into for an hour. He went on and on, unscripted. I thought that was fabulous. I thought that this is a whole other dimension about President Trump, very positive, I might add, about the guy's depth and some of the things, tactics and all that, I don't understand. I don't really like, but what he was talking about yesterday about how to negotiate with a really difficult situation, i.e. Iran, that's huge, with huge consequences for me and you and everybody. And so far, it seems to be working. The price of oil is going down and down. The stock market is up. A sense of regrouping and regenerating of spirit amongst the G7. We'll see what happens, of course. But what do you think, Ron?
I'm on target with you, Ed. And with many people, the two words Donald Trump will immediately invoke some sort of reaction.
Yeah,
Verbal, not.
it's abrasive.
Yeah, it's there are very few fence riders on Donald Trump. You either agree with or don't. I personally, a lot of my values align with him. There are some things he does that I wish he wouldn't have done and said and so forth. But he is in my view, he's a great negotiator. He is a very good critical thinker. He knows all the facts and factors that are involved, and should, in this case, Iran disagree or should they not live up to
They'll pay a price.
yeah, they will pay a price for that. And I just choose to believe, I have not having been inside the Situation Room, I choose to believe we have a way to monitor everything in Iran. You're not going to do anything behind closed doors that we won't know about. And should you choose to make a fateful decision not to comply, there will be consequences. That's what I choose to believe.
So, Ken, how do you think? I assume you've been watching, part of this too. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The Iranian foreign minister seems to be totally different personality than the other leaders of Iran that we've been able to see. And there's something good happening there because that guy seems to be trustworthy and a tough negotiator for sure, but it's a new face. What do you think, Ken?
I don't know. Sitting out here and reading so many different sources, my real attitude is keep the faith, be hopeful. Things will work out. We never are getting really all of the news, nor should we in this case, because a lot of it is behind closed doors appropriately. And just hope for the positive outcomes. I always believe that light follows darkness. There's a lot of darkness that's going on out there, and I'm hopeful that perhaps now we're going to be on a more positive path. That's as far as I can really go with that. I can't pass judgment because it's not for me, not in my position to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Ron, final word?
No, I agree with Ken that yes, we are going to endure. We are enduring geopolitical situations. I do believe that many of the things we are going through are temporary, and then how do we help businesses? And we're talking international. How do we help people through the situations that we're in and have hope for the positive? And I again encourage long range thinking in what we're doing, as near term thinking can be very different from long range. But as we're thinking long range, and and the Iranian regime, who's making the decisions? Yeah, we're dealing with a lot of different personalities. I am actually at this point. I don't know exactly who's out front with the presiding decision. But I'm encouraged with where we are to this point. I'll just say it that way. And I do believe that should Iran choose to make a wrong decision, that all of that will eventually have the right course to take. So that's the part of the light, as Ken described, that I see.
All right. Thank you for being on the program again. I'll be working on the preparation of this recorded program, getting it ready for public viewing, certainly by the end of the day today, if not sooner. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks, back to you. Great to see both of you. Be well, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be safe.